Hello and welcome to my self-reflection for Comm-347. I'm Philip Metter and I'll be presenting for you today. So for this self-reflection, we were tasked to reflect back on the various groups work that we were tasked with for the past semester, both in our initial projects at the beginning of the semester and then our client project with digital scholarship for the past semester. Um, During this self-reflection, we'll be discussing things like how did we establish working together. What roles did you adopt within your group? How did you organize group meetings? How did you allocate tasks? Strategies that you used to divide up work? Improvements, challenges and issues, processes that we use to get assignments in and develop presentations, group strengths and weaknesses, personal strengths and weaknesses, one action you wish you would have taken during the course of these projects, and then how do you feel like the future would be with a workplace environment now that we actually know how it kind of works and feels? So let's begin. So we'll start off with establishment. So for both of my groups that I was in this past semester, I found that communication is key. Um, the way that we establish working together is by just communicating with each other with every little detail that we did. Um, we felt comfortable with or to listen to different ideas and work with different things until we felt like it was a good fit for our project, and then we would get the best grade or show off the best work for whatever we did. And communication was a big way for that to work. For both the initial projects and client projects, this was the best way that we established working together with the task at hand, and I feel like it paid off very well. For roles, there weren't really roles given out necessarily, but members took them up if they felt comfortable or wanted to. In both the initial project group and the client project group, we would assign individuals to what they felt like they would succeed at or again be comfortable with doing. We each equally took responsibility for the project, so there wasn't truly an assigned leader to the group. It was rather just a collective group that discussed everything and made sure everything was okay with one another. Um, we each had a specific role for the part that we assigned ourselves, though. We had to complete a certain piece or project or piece of the project and then put it all together for the final work. We really didn't establish particular roles again. We just made sure overall that we worked collectively. We communicated again, just and worked as a group more or less than someone telling someone what to do, which I felt like was really great. So for organization of the groups, um, our biggest factor was again communicating, but we utilized group text and emails. This is the best way that we organized how we were going to get together, who was doing what, where we're going to meet, different things like that. Um, this was also a main way that we communicate inside and outside of lecture and class and all that. For both groups, we would use this. We would see when each other was free to meet during the week. A lot of times, the majority of us could meet up and work together wherever on campus or off campus. If a person could not meet up, then they would just usually take a piece of the project to do on their own. Both of these groups that I was in this past semester worked effectively by having that sense of communication and planning meetings to get all of our work done effectively. I just felt like overall we were just very organized with setting up things up, which set us up for good work in the future. Next would be the tasks. Okay, so the way that we allocated tasks was it was a little different for both groups. In the initial projects, we would assign ourselves a part of the project. If it was a PowerPoint, we would do a slide, or the presentation, we would talk about a certain part. So we would do that and we would create and incorporate into the project what we had done. For projects like the Eco Capsule and the Adidas chain shoe one that our group was with, we split up the work to create a fully integrated presentation. It means each person had a part and it all combined together to make one whole project. For the client projects, we broke up the interviews into two groups. This gave two individuals a group and just to build off the results to work on other parts of the project separately, and then we would come back together. We would take on roles that were needed at the time. It seemed that the groups that I was in for this semester were very flexible and willing to allocate certain things to each other or themselves, and I feel like it just worked effectively, and we got all of our tasks done. Next, we have improving effectiveness. Um, as I mentioned earlier in this presentation, our group, we utilized communication thoroughly. That was the main part that we strived on. I feel like that's how we improved our effectiveness, was if we hadn't talked about something, we would communicate on it. We would discuss what we needed to do. If we saw a group doing something else that we didn't think we had to do, we would talk about it. We would ask Professor Dewey. We would do all that. It just seems to be a common theme for this reflection, but it is just so crucial to having the groups work together with projects like the initial projects and the digital scholarship project. By discussing problems and goals, our group was able to effectively improve as the course went on, which was truly great. Okay, for our challenges and our issues, you know, working in a group, one can expect to have a few bumps in the road. Group work can be tough to handle depending on the people that you're working with. But I was fortunate because for both the initial project and the client project, I felt my groups handled things extraordinarily well. We did encounter problems. Both groups experienced similar challenges and issues. And those were at times we struggled with making sure what we were doing was enough, or to ensure that what we did would get a good grade, and we did the project thoroughly. Um, in the initial projects, this wasn't as big of a deal as we had flexibility to go in different directions. But for the client project, we at times struggled with understanding what was going on. With the different deadlines and elements from each team or group, would get confused and would rush to finish something, or would be unsure by having dead time with nothing to do. Other than that, there weren't any true challenges and issues that affected our group during the course of this semester, which was really great. So I feel like we truly succeeded in everything that we did. Next, we have our workload strategies to divide up the work. So in order to be efficient with a large amount of tasks, several strategies were put in place by the initial projects and the client projects or digital scholarship project. The initial group projects were kept as either a group or individual effort. We would create the presentation and then let all members of the group look over it and make changes or additions if they felt like it was needed. The client project was much different though than the initial project. For the interview portion of the project, we split the group in half. Two of us would take a set of interviews, and the other two would take a group would do the same. We would utilize Google Docs and other platforms that allowed us to work collaboratively without physically being present. This was one of our main strategies for getting things like the social media guidelines, combining the interview results and other parts of the digital scholarship project to truly work. Through utilizing these strategies, we were able to complete all of our work and contribute to the overall project effectively. So we had good strategies in order to put all of our work together, good time management, all that. It just truly, we, we had good strategies going into the project, which really helped. For the group strengths and weaknesses, I felt that my group had a lot of strengths that made the initial project and client project be successful. Um, for the strengths, in the initial project group, we had many creative individuals that wanted to make our presentation stand out with what was being shown on the screen. We had detail-oriented people that made sure the content of the presentation went above and beyond the assignment goals. These two were the strengths of our initial project, and I was very happy to work with this group. In the client project groups, I found myself impressed with the strengths that this group had as well. Again, they were detail-oriented and went above and beyond to make our stuff stand out. They were on top of every assignment and made sure that the whole group knew what was going on. Um, with all these strengths, though, there were some weaknesses in both of our groups. As I mentioned in the issue section of this presentation, I felt at times that my groups were lost and not sure with what was going on, which I feel is a weakness. Um, Another thing was that some members in both groups would take on portions of the work to do themselves before telling any of the other group members, which would make it easier to finish a presentation or work, but it would make other group members feel as if they hadn't contributed as much though. So there was some poor communication in our projects. Even with these weaknesses, they may not be major, they still occurred, but we were able to overcome these issues and create a quality work, which I felt like was more important. For the processes that our group used, developing our presentations and creating work was one of the more enjoyable things because for myself, it felt like I was contributing to a larger picture than just doing homework. Given the scenarios in the initial project, my group would try to tie in the main points from previous class lectures and what we felt would best fit the presentation. We would look up outside sources and then collaborate with creative ideas that we all had. In the client projects, we again would base some of our main points off of class notes and lecture topics, but we also paid close attention to detail with what Emily and Corey wanted and felt was important, and also the interviews that were conducted. We would take things as a group and creatively build them up to where we had a finished product that we felt was good enough to be shown off to the class. For my personal strengths and weaknesses, I felt that I grew a lot in this presentation. I felt that my strengths were that I came in with a determined get work done attitude, and then I also had a creative approach for both the groups I was a part of during the semester. When we were designing presentations, I felt that I was able to bring creative designs and aspects that helped our group stand out. When doing the interview for the client project, I felt like I stepped up and created a dialogue that truly helped our group collect positive information that helped digital scholarship become the product that it is today. I did have my weaknesses though. At times I felt myself being caught off guard or behind on some of the work because my group members had already gone and done a majority of the work. I also felt that I wasn't as vocal as I could have been when stating ideas and things that would help the class and groups do even better. These are things that I can definitely try to work on for future projects. For an action I could have taken or wished I could have taken, I wish I stepped up more as a leader and a team player rather than sitting back and letting everyone else do a lot of the collaborating. I felt like I had ideas and directions for where our projects could have gone, but instead I chose to go along with other group members' ideas for our presentations and work. I feel like I could have truly improved the group experiences by stepping up and taking charge, but also leaving in the equal collaborative effort each of my groups possessed. By doing this, the groups could have had better direction and goals to get our projects and work done as opposed to being confused about what and who's doing what at what times throughout the semester. This is a skill that I plan on working on and implementing in future group projects. Finally, understanding the workplace. The experience has truly been special for me to see what an actual workplace environment could look like. It was work that I didn't feel like was actually work for a grade, but was being contributed to a bigger picture, which was the digital scholarship project or the presentations at the beginning of the year. I learned how to work collaboratively and saw how positive discussion of ideas and thoughts could go and be handled within a big group of individuals. It's also truly helped me to understand the importance of groups in the workplace as they are needed to pull together big projects. Deadlines and meetings are crucial aspects of getting the project off the ground. Groups are like little cogs that are needed to make the big picture work. I'm excited to think that this is something that I would like to do in the future, and the group work and overall, the class has shown me that I'd be good at this and enjoy whatever field I decide to do this in. Um, Again, I'm just excited. This class has truly helped me out a lot, and to see what kind of future career I might have in the public relations world, or just overall helping me work with groups with whatever field that I decide to enter in after my time at Bridgewater. Um, this project truly has been great, and I'm very appreciative of it. And this concludes my self-reflection. Thank you for listening.